$31.5 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That is the staggering amount of money Fortune 500 companies are bleeding every single year just from knowledge management failures. It's a massive, gaping leak in the corporate bucket. And the crazy thing? It doesn't come from clunky software or misplaced files. It comes from human beings simply refusing to share what they know.
Now, what's really fascinating about this massive financial loss is the psychology behind it. You see, in a hyper-competitive workplace, knowledge isn't just information. It's power. It's job security. Honestly, it's the key to that next promotion. Employees are actively hoarding their best ideas and most valuable insights to protect their own competitive advantage. Think about it. If your unique expertise is exactly what makes you valuable, why on earth would you just give it away to a coworker you might be competing against? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really brilliant academic study published in the Journal of Knowledge Management that reveals how leaders can actually shatter this psychological barrier. We're going to look at the hard data on exactly how to get your teams to stop hoarding and start sharing. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're covering the cost of hoarding knowledge, what knowledge-oriented leadership actually is, learning versus performance orientations, some genuinely surprising study results, and we'll wrap up with takeaways from modern leaders. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. The cost of hoarding knowledge. To really grasp this cost, we gotta split knowledge into two distinct buckets, explicit and tacit. Explicit knowledge is the easy stuff. It's codified, it's formal, you can slap it in a PDF. Think employee handbooks, sales manuals, standard operating procedures. Tacit knowledge, though, that is the secret sauce. It's cognitive. It is locked tight inside a worker's head. It's those complex instincts and the deep know-how built up over years of grinding. For a pharmaceutical sales rep, explicit knowledge is just the chemical makeup of a drug. But tacit knowledge? That's the gut instinct of knowing exactly when a doctor is tuning out your pitch and exactly what to say to win them back. So here is the absolute kicker. 42% of your organization's actual brain power is tacit knowledge. Nearly half. That means almost half of the value your company completely relies on is just walking around in the minds of your employees. It's incredibly hard to extract, codify, or replicate if an employee isn't 100% willing to share it.
Section 2. What is knowledge-oriented leadership?
So how do you get that knowledge out? Enter the concept of knowledge-oriented leadership, or KOL. This is not your typical top-down command and control management. KOL strips away all that usual corporate rigidity. It's a leadership style purpose-built to stimulate sharing through mentoring, intellectual stimulation, and delegating authority. But the real magic? It creates a psychological safety net. A knowledge-oriented leader actively promotes a learning culture that explicitly tolerates mistakes. They reward intellectual curiosity over sheer brute force output.
Which brings us to Section 3, learning versus performance orientation.
Social cognitive theory basically tells us employees fall into one of two camps. In the first camp, you have learning-oriented employees. These folks want to master new skills, they actively hunt down challenges, and they really aren't afraid to fail because to them, mistakes are just part of the process. In the second camp, you have performance-oriented employees. These individuals are obsessed with the scoreboard. They have a massive fear of looking incompetent, so they sweat over short-term success and immediate evaluations. They just want to look good. To put all this psychology to the test, researchers built out a conceptual model and surveyed 223 pharmaceutical sales employees in Pakistan. And honestly, pharma is the perfect testing ground for this. It requires intense knowledge, ruthless performance metrics, and incredibly complex human interactions. They mapped out knowledge-oriented leadership, these employee goal orientations, and emotional intelligence to see which of these traits actually resulted in tacit and explicit knowledge sharing. Going into it, the researchers had some pretty logical hypotheses based on existing literature. The expectation was that all three of these characteristics, a learning orientation, a performance drive, and strong emotional intelligence, would act as solid bridges to knowledge sharing. The assumption is simply that if you're driven, smart, and emotionally aware, you're naturally going to collaborate and share your best ideas with a team, right? Well, here's where things get wild. Section 4, the surprising study results. This is the massive plot twist. When they ran the numbers, the data completely upended standard corporate wisdom. Did learning orientation drive knowledge sharing? Yep, absolutely. But the study flat out rejected the ideas that performance orientation and emotional intelligence drive sharing. Let me repeat that because it's huge. Highly performance-driven people and highly emotionally intelligent people were not moved to share their knowledge. Only a learning orientation actually worked. So why did performance fail so miserably as a motivator? It really comes down to social exchange theory. The researchers noted that highly competitive, performance-oriented folks are looking strictly for short-term wins. They are constantly asking, okay, what's in it for me right now? Because taking the painstaking time to explain their closely guarded secrets to a coworker offers zero immediate personal reward, and honestly, it might even help a rival look better. They just keep their mouths shut.
And this is the one that blows a hole in conventional HR assumptions. Emotional intelligence completely failed to bridge the gap too. We're always told high EQ leads to great teamwork, but the data showed that just being emotionally intelligent didn't compel anyone to hand over their tacit knowledge. You can be perfectly capable of understanding a colleague's feelings and gracefully navigating office politics, but that absolutely does not mean you're willing to give away your hard-earned competitive edge.
Section 5. Takeaways for modern leaders. So traditional performance-driven rewards and high EQ aren't going to save us from this hoarding epidemic. What can leaders actually do? You have to actively convert your team's mindset from a performance orientation over to a learning orientation. First, stop obsessing purely over short-term targets and hyper-competitive rankings. Second, you gotta build a culture that genuinely tolerates mistakes, because if someone tries something new, fails, and gets punished for it, they are instantly going to revert back to hoarding whatever they know is safe. Reward the process of learning, not just the flawless output.
And here is my absolute favorite tactical takeaway from the whole study. The researchers specifically advise managers to assign employees to strange, unfamiliar tasks they've never done before. Why? Because it violently forces them out of their comfort zones. A performance-oriented employee hates being in a situation where they don't look like an absolute expert. So by throwing them into the deep end with a brand new challenge, you basically compel them to seek out their colleagues, ask questions, and share knowledge just to survive. It breaks down those silos organically. I'm going to leave you with this final question to evaluate your own workplace culture. Are you genuinely rewarding your team for learning, exploring, and sharing, or are you really just rewarding them for looking smart and hitting this quarter's metrics? Because as this data clearly proves, if you only reward people for looking competent, they're going to hoard their secrets, protect their status, and eventually take their very best ideas out the door with them. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and here's to unlocking the true potential of your team.